Lucknow Pact 1916. The Indian politics took a new turn with the change in Muslim League's political creed. The Quaid-e-Azam's inclusion in the Muslim League was a historic event which gave new dimensions to Muslim League's political struggle. The Muslim League had already demanded self-rule for India, which brought the Muslim League and the Congress closer to each other. The leaders of both parties agreed that they should cooperate with each other to bring the government around to accept the demands. The purpose could be achieved, they agreed, if the two major communities of India forget their differences on petty issues and come closer to each other to see eye to eye on important national issues. The political environs had taken a happy turn and ground for cherished Hindu-Muslim unity had been paved. Quaid-e-Azam, a great advocate of Hindu-Muslim unity, was widely respected in Muslim League and the Congress. He suggested to the Muslim League to hold its annual session of 1915 in Bombay, where Congress was also holding its annual session. The Quaid-e-Azam believed that by holding the sessions of both Congress and Muslim League at one place would greatly help in creating the feelings of goodwill and friendship between the two major communities of India. The Muslim League readily took up the advice of Quaid-e-Azam, under whose guidance efforts for Hindu-Muslim unity were launched. In December 1916, the Muslim League and the Congress, for the first time in the history of India, held their joint sessions in Lucknow. The League session was held on 13 and 31st December 1916 in Kaisar Bagh, Baradari, Lucknow. The Muslim League, in recognition to the great efforts by the Quaid-e-Azam for the safeguard of the Muslim interest and for securing Hindu-Muslim unity, elected him as the president of its eighth session. Quaid-e-Azam delivered an excellent address in which he presented a masterly survey of the political situation of India. He rejected all objections raised by the British against India's suitability to have a system of self-rule. He declared that the Indians were capable enough to run the government's affairs and possessed all qualities of head and heart to deal with matters of national importance. The reforms committees appointed by the Congress and the Muslim League at the Bombay session had already devised an agreed scheme for the solution of Hindu-Muslim problems and constitutional reforms in their meeting at Kolkata in November 1916. The Reforms Committee once again met at Lucknow before the session of Congress and League and finalized the proposal before placing it in the regular session. Quaid-e-Azam informed the session that the efforts of reform committees to find a settlement of Hindu-Muslim problems had been successful and a new era had opened in the history of the country. He asked the government to accord the system of self-rule to India in the nearest future, which was the definite aim of the Indian people. The scheme for constitutional reform prepared by the Reforms Committee of Congress and Muslim League, in which the Quaid-e-Azam played a major role, was placed before the joint session for approval. Finally, the scheme was approved and an agreement on the scheme of constitutional reforms was reached between Congress and Muslim League, known as Lucknow Pact. It was decided that both Congress and Muslim League would submit the jointly approved scheme to the government for its introduction after the war in order to introduce self-government in India. The main recommendations of the pact are the provincial legislative councils will have fourth as elected members and one-fifth as nominated members. The members would be elected directly by the people for a term of 5 years. In the major provinces, the strength of the legislative council would be 125, and in the minor provinces, the strength would be between 50 to 75. The Muslims shall be elected through special electorates, and their strength in the different provinces shall be as follows: Punjab 50%, Bengal 40%, UP 30%, Bihar 25%, CP 50%, Madras 15%, Bombay 33%. No bill nor any clause thereof, nor a resolution introduced by a non-official member affecting one or other community shall be presented in the Assembly without the approval of the concerned group. Provincial autonomy will be given to the province with maximum powers vested with the provincial councils. The provincial councils would be authorized to impose taxes, raise loans, and to vote on budget. All proposals for raising revenues shall have to be submitted to the provincial councils for sections. There shall be an executive council in the provinces headed by the governor, whose half of the members shall be Indian nationals elected by the elected members of the legislative council. Their term of office shall be 5 years. The members of the assemblies shall have the right to present a adjournment motion. Seats were reserved for the Muslims in those provinces in which they were in minority under the system of weightage. Protection shall be given to the Hindus in Muslim-majority provinces. In the centre there shall be an imperial legislative council consisting of 150 members. 4/5 of the members shall be elected for a term of 5 years on the basis of direct election. The Muslims will be given 2/3 seats of the elected members, and they will be elected by separate Muslim electorates. The central government will be headed by a Governor-General who would be assisted by an Executive Council. Half of the members of the Executive Council shall be Indians elected by the elected members of the Imperial Legislative Council. The Lucknow Pact was a great achievement of the Hindu-Muslim leaders who were successful in offering for the first and only time a mutually acceptable solution of the Hindu-Muslim problems. It was an amazing outcome of the sincere efforts of the Quaid-e-Azam, who had always been a staunch advocate of Hindu-Muslim unity. The scheme provided for a concrete step taken halfway toward the establishment of self-rule in India, which was main cover of the jointly sponsored scheme of Lucknow Pact. The most glaring feature of the scheme was that it expressed the recognition by the Hindus of the separate political entity of the Muslims. The Hindus for the first time had acknowledged the Muslims as a separate nation and accepted their right to separate electorate. The Muslims also reciprocated by throwing off their old animosities and agreed to go along with the Hindus towards the goal of self-government. The broad approach towards each other's interests displayed at Lucknow by both sides was by no means a great accomplishment of the two communities. The Lucknow Pact established a stable ground for political advancement of the Muslims who were desperately looking for the constitutional safeguards of their interests, which were openly opposed by the Hindu majority. On the other hand, the scheme also paved the way for joint endeavors by the Hindus and Muslims for the attainment of self-government. The Lucknow Pact was a bright chapter in the dark and gloomy annals of the Indian political history. made with communal strife and narrow-mindedness. It was a political agreement which set in a new path leading towards a happy and prosperous future. The Lucknow Pact created political homogeneity between the two separate political entities, Hindus and Muslims, who frankly and fairly admitted each other's interests with sincerity. The credit for creating this harmonious situation undoubtedly went to the unflinching and untiring efforts of the Quaid-e-Azam, who was conferred with a proud title of Ambassador of Hindu-Muslim Unity by the famous politician Mr. Sarangi Naidu. The Congress, however, could not remain friendly and cordial towards the Muslims for a long time. It underwent a transformation with the prejudicial influence of Gandhi a few years later. The air of amity and harmonious spirit of Lucknow Pact, achieved through sincere and above-board efforts of the Quaid-e-Azam, soon disappeared with Gandhi saddled into the mount to determine political path of Congress. The sense of accommodation shown towards the Muslims and other communities at Lucknow by the Congress quickly evaporated from the political creed of the Congress to give way to hatred, jealousy and narrow-mindedness toward the Muslims cause was created soon by the Congress members and Hindu majority.